My lovely attackers, and welcome back to another video for Zelda month, possibly even next to the last. So Link's Awakening for Switch is almost upon us tomorrow, along with the Area 51 raid. Okay, so I've barely talked about this on this channel because it's so stupid. If you don't know what I'm talking about, someone did this meme group on Facebook for raiding Area 51, but there's people that are legit going to do it. When we hear about how it's a massacre or how thousands are injured, I'm just gonna nod my head slightly while laughing evilly as I got a guy in the inside who get all the aliens for me. Oh crud, I'm off topic. Anyways, Link's Awakening DX Retrospective. So since Link's Awakening Switch is basically gonna do what Link's Awakening DX did to the original Link's Awakening and this man's whole career, I decided to do one final look at Link's Awakening DX. I have many memories of this game, but this might come as a surprise to some. I like the Oracle games better. Now don't get me wrong, Link's Awakening is a fantastic game with a fantastic story, but I always liked the Oracle games more. Don't know why. Link's Awakening DX was one of the first ever Zelda remakes, sans that 16-bit remake of the original NES Zelda that I think most people in the West only know about due to Zelda Classic ROM hacks using those assets. The original Link's Awakening began as a port for the SNES Classic The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which sounds like a horrible idea, and I think Takashi Tezuka, sorry for butchering name, agreed with me as he slowly turned it into an original project, which became as the much beloved Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening was held to such praise, but the main complaints was its monochrome graphics and control screen. So Nintendo decided to be a Nintendo and solve a half of those problems. Link's Awakening DX gave those beautiful color graphics, gave it compatibility with the Game Boy printer, and an exclusive color-based dungeon. From what you can tell, this updated remake made the old version obsolete as hell. Check literally any Link's Awakening video, and 98% of them you'll be seeing footage of the DX version. Heck, you see Link's Awakening DX footage in my video. That just speaks for how good of a remake DX is. Or does that just speak for how lackluster the original was? Most of the time with remakes, there always seems to be one minor mess up or misstep that while it makes it the de facto version, still gives people an urge to play the original games. This could also be due to the fact that most of these remakes I'm talking about happen an entire 10 years at the very least after the original game, while Link's Awakening DX came out like around 5 years after original. But again, I digress. So let's talk about graphics first. After playing through Link's Awakening DX again, I immediately saw the charms, visuals, and why people complain about the monochrome colors of the original Game Boy game. Even 20 years later, this game has aged well. It's a very nice looking game with clear defined items and objects. It was still surprising to see just how good the movement was and how much of a world they could fit into this tiny Game Boy cartridge. I should remind you that this is what the Game Boy games looked like before this came into fruition. Nothing terrible, but looks straight up handheld games that pales in comparison to the NES games. However, Link's Awakening looks far better than the both NES Zelda games, and no, that's not because I did the 3-art challenge. I'm not that petty. And that's just incredible and speaks for the love and care put into this game. There are of course some oversights like how small screens are due to how much space is being fit, but I never viewed this as bad enough to warrant me not playing the game. As I played through, I saw a lot of things that made me love the Oracle games, but also things I disliked from the Oracle games. However, I can't blame Link's Awakening DX or the original for this, since it's more so a problem on the Oracle games for not trying to find a way around this dumb 2-button limitation. I get that it's due to the limitation of the Game Boy, but then almighty, why didn't they at least make it where you can switch between items in real time with select button so I don't need to constantly pause? I feel like at least that would have made the game slightly faster and less monotonous. To be completely honest though, despite my complaint about this, I wasn't all that annoyed with the 2-button limitation until far later in the game, where Dungeon asked me for completely different equips, items, double equips, etc. for each room. Lots of passive items from A Link to the Past were no longer passive, and one thing I need to complain about for the Switch remake is the fact that they still have the Rock Feather as an equipable item and not just a passive item. While this limitation for some have made them not want to touch Link's Awakening after the first encounter, I still view it as a minor issue that only really gets worse in later dungeons. Maybe it's due to my patience, but I can at least accept this limitation. Link also does control well enough. There's times where I feel he's moved further than I wanted him to, attempting to make diagonal jumps at times is awkward, but that's the worst I ever got out of controlling the game. It's responsive and quick. The different gameplay minigames the game also gives aren't all too bad. The crane game controls well enough and has some form of strategy to it, but the fishing minigame is just fish every fish, then finally get the one heart piece and you earn more than you've lost. Overall, the game is an interesting beast, very impressive for the time of the Game Boy, and I definitely enjoy it. Now let's talk about one of my favorite things about Link's Awakening, the story. It has a deeper plot than the last few Zelda games, not counting the BS franchise of games because I don't know really what the plots are for those. It starts off with Link cast away on an island after a huge storm. Marin wakes him up, tells him that he's now on Cajon Island. Link gets his shield, goes to the beach to get his sword, and is greeted by an owl who gives him the clues and information. Sound familiar? Of where to go next to awaken the windfish. The only thing that can get Link off this island. Link, instead of swimming to see if it works, or building a raft, or doing any form of building just to test to see if the owl is just lying, goes ahead and does the job because he's such a chore boy, and by Nairu he must be purified. From there, the story takes a halt, as with most Nintendo games. For you to learn more about the world around you, you need to speak to the NPCs, who are probably some of the most hilarious and self-aware NPCs in the Zelda franchise yet. They will break the fourth wall constantly, mention how they're just a kid so they don't know, etc. That it felt all of those little kids were actually midgets. Now I should note, the story I gave didn't have any spoilers and it's a basic summary of the game. What I'm mentioning now is going to be spoilers because I'm going to mention the rest of the story. So if you don't want to be spoiled, skip to whatever the spoiler caption says. I'm going to give you 3 seconds, alright? 3, 2, 1. Alright, after tackling 5 dungeons, Link finds out that Cajon Island is a dream, and waking the windfish will cause the entire island to disappear. This is the biggest twist of the game, and an interesting one at that. It makes it kind of difficult to continue if you grow and attach these characters because they will disappear. Regardless, Link pulls through as he has a nap time schedule and the windfish isn't messing with it, defeats the nightmares who take the form of Ganon, and wakes the windfish. One thing I didn't mention during the plot synopsis was Marin, a girl that looks similar to Zelda, apparently, or Link's just blind, and takes a liking to our hero. Here's sharing her personal wants with him. She is the hardest to see go, as her dreams were wanting to get off the island, but if you did not die at all during your journey, you'll see a seagull fly away with a portrait of Marin, implying that she herself has escaped. What's kind of funny is, in a dark way, this is one of the darkest good endings in Zelda history. We just nuked an entire civilization to escape from a dream. Jesus. Like, dang. Well, regardless, the story is great. So hey, if you just came back after skipping past the spoiler time card, welcome back. There's not much more to talk about aside from conclusions. Link's Awakening DX is almost everything you'd want in a remake. Better graphics, on better hardware, etc. It's no wonder why it completely killed the original Link's Awakening. However, now after Link's Awakening Switch coming along, is Link's Awakening DX now going to die off next? I made a joke earlier in the video, but to be completely honest with you, I don't think so. Link's Awakening DX stood for way too long, nearly 20 years I believe. It has nostalgic tying, so people will come back to that. Unlike the original Link's Awakening gap between it and the DX version, which was about 5 years, this is 20 years. I think we're going to have a Pokemon Red and Fire Red situation with DX and the Switch, where there's clearly a better version objectively and mechanically, but people will still play the original version because simply, they love it. It's nostalgic to them. Well, no matter, I am excited for Link's Awakening Switch. I hope all of you that are getting it enjoy it. Good luck to the dum-dums that are trying to raid Area 51. I really hope you reconsider. If you like this video, attack that subscribe button, attack that like button, support me on Patreon, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I am Dat, and I have given you my attack. See ya.